Welcome to the Empowered Mom Hour, where today I'm going to be talking with one of my dear friends, Tracy Astle, and she and I have something in common, in which we've both been in the same community for a number of years. We were learning together. She was also in my mastermind. We were helping each other with our businesses. And because of Tracy's expertise, I felt that it was necessary to bring her own. Tracy is in the weight loss space where she also helps moms basically become more fit and loving their bodies without the diet culture funhouse. And I'm going to have her really explain what exactly it is, her method. She's also going to talk to you today about pregnancy and weight gain and postpartum weight loss, which are two topics that I honestly don't have a lot to say because of the fact that I was very tiny before I got pregnant. I was very tiny in my pregnancy to the point where, as you know, I got tricked out of my home birth with my first baby. And going on with my second, I had a home birth that was pretty much almost unassisted. I still didn't gain a lot of weight. And then I lost the weight very quickly through breastfeeding. I know, okay? I cannot help the way that my body is. And I know that sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But Tracy is all about loving your body in all its beautiful forms. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be sharing our stories. And I just know that you're going to love this because, oftentimes we get tricked by those weight loss videos or the things that are like promising fast results. But when you're breastfeeding and recovering postpartum, you took all that time to grow your baby. And then at the end, you've got to take that time to recover. So this is not about getting your body back right away. We're going to be talking about that as well, about how our culture basically had this idea you had to hide yourself in pregnancy and then bounce back. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Tracy to you. Tracy, thank you so much. I'm so happy to have you on here.
I am happy to be here and really excited to talk to your group of women because they're my kind of women.
Oh, yeah, I know. I mean, we've been wanting to do this for a while, and the time finally aligned to be able to do this. I mean, you've been doing your weight loss challenges and the Diet Culture Funhouse. You've been like a really freaking busy, empowered mom. So before we get into what you actually do, can you just say a little bit about your motherhood journey and what you've been doing and how old your kids are and the experience?
Yes, I'd be happy to. I have 4 children. I've got 3 boys and a girl, and 2 of them born in the hospital and 2 of them born at home. And so I have I worked my way into home birth. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later because every experience is just so different. But I'm excited to come to talk with you today because you're women who are disruptors. You're women who are not afraid to look at the system that's in place and go, wait a minute, is that accurate? And that's the whole mindset that is going to really help with body image and taking care of yourself during your pregnancy. How I came into this work of the coaching that I do is just for so much of my life, like many of you, I was just influenced by what a culture said I was supposed to look like. I remember when I was 18 or 19 years old. Now, mind you, at that time I was in college and I lived off campus. I lived off the south end of campus. All my classes were at the north end of campus. So I was like, I don't even know how many miles a day I was walking. I was walking all over creation because I didn't have a car at that time. And then also I was a theater major and I was taking dance classes and I was going to rehearsals for shows. I was really active. And then I saw this article in this magazine that had a chart and everything. If when you're this height, you should weigh this much, and this height should weigh this much. And I looked at that and I went, oh my goodness, I'm 5 pounds overweight. And it didn't even occur to me to question that chart. I just accepted it and questioned myself. And so I thought, well, I guess I need to lose this 5 pounds. Now, I'm surprised it was only 5 pounds over what they said because I was solid muscle at the time. I was very active. Anyway, but so that started kind of my journey with not being happy with my body and thinking that it needed to look a certain way and that it was incumbent upon me to eat the way that I needed to and to exercise the way that I needed to make it look the way it was supposed to look. And that's just such a toxic and really like set in stone kind of way of thinking, gives no acceptance, no space for the fact that all of our bodies are different from each other. We don't look at a German Shepherd and criticize them for being so much bigger and so much heavier than a beagle. They're both dogs, but they're different, but we do that to ourselves all the time. And that's just not okay. So I had gotten into that trap of trying to manipulate the size of my body with how I was eating and how I was moving, and just getting more and more frustrated as years went on. And I thought, it's food. We have to have it to sustain our bodies. It's how we were designed. So it shouldn't be this complicated. I should be able to trust my body to let me know through hunger cues and fullness cues what it needs, and be able to honor that, regardless of what anything says is an acceptable portion size. What's too little, what's too much, what's just right, Goldilocks. And I know you're into the fairy tales and that kind of thing. It's like Goldilocks fits in real well with this. But anyway, so I had just thought it just shouldn't be this complicated. And one day I came across a post for a place called the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. And I don't even remember specifically what was in that post, but oh my gosh, it's like they're speaking my language. It may be something similar to how you felt when you first heard Carly and you went, wait a minute, there's another option other than what I'm hearing everywhere else. And so that's why I was with that. I immediately went to their site. I consumed all of their content I possibly could and decided this is for me. It's about the psychology of it. It's about the differences in our bodies. It's not about you need to eat this much of this type of macronutrient at this time of day, and then you will be in your ideal weight, in your ideal body. It's not about that. So that's kind of how I got into that. And then once that, I just started coaching and blogging and podcasting and not shutting up about this.
And doing all of that with 4 kids.
Yeah, my kids are much older now. My youngest is 30. So my time is a lot less pressured kid-wise than it was for most of my life. So
yeah. Which, I mean, I'm still in it.
You're in the thick of it.
11-year-old and my 8-year-old, but still, I mean, you've been on this journey most of your life. You were in college when you saw those posts in the diet culture and all of that. So the thing is, sometimes we overlook because the rest of society has said, well, this is the way it has to be. But you're questioning it and you're thinking, this doesn't seem right. And I just remember being that I was kind of skinny, but I didn't do a lot of exercise. And I had a little bit of a belly pooch back in college. And I didn't realize that at certain times of the month, you are going to have a belly pooch. Like, it is just a thing that happens. It's our menstrual cycle. There's nothing wrong with it. But I just remember even when I was in like my early 20s, starting to feel self-conscious. And I had also grown really fast after high school. So I ended up getting stretch marks on my hips. And I thought, oh, I'm gaining too much weight. And the reality is that I wasn't. And then just recently, I mean, Tracy, this is like a major yay, because I had been about 115 pounds which isn't bad, but that was with my ex. And then I lost that and I got to 110. And then I was thinking to myself, because I saw my belly pooch, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe it might be a good idea to check out Tracy's stuff just to see if maybe there's something else I'm eating that's not so great or whatever. Because I might be getting a little bit heavier because I am almost 39. And then I go and step on the scale over the summer. And again, I'm not bragging, but it's 106. And that goes back into the whole, you should be skinnier for the size you are. And then it's like, no. So this ties into pregnancy too, where you're told you need to be a certain weight if you're going to be growing this baby, and you don't want to be over that, and you don't want to be under that. And my midwife didn't even weigh me my entire pregnancy with my second. Like, I don't know what I was at certain points.
Mhm.
So different from my first pregnancy, where I was being weighed every single week,
And
and I
you
was
should
kind of
be gaining
mindful.
weight at this rate. And if you're not
Yeah.
gaining that much weight, then something you need to be paying attention. Or if you're getting too much weight, you need to be paying attention to that. Instead of just going, take care of yourself well. This is how you do that. And let your body
Mhm.
have its pregnancy.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
that's also probably why I got so easily tricked, because I was so skinny and everybody was commenting on how tiny my baby bump was for how far along I was compared to my friend who had had three children, and
Mhm.
she always had a bigger belly and she was always bigger than me. But people were constantly like, "Are you sure that baby's even getting enough?"
Mhm.
So
There must be
then
something wrong.
35 weeks comes along, and what happens? They say, "Oh, you're measuring smaller. Maybe your baby's not getting enough. Maybe we should schedule you for an induction." Well, at the very least, if you're not going to do the induction, you have to have a hospital birth, because that baby might not tolerate labor well, only for him to come out almost 8 pounds. So
Mhm.
it's like, what the hell? So with my second, when they drop, I literally will measure 2 weeks behind.
Ah,
So with my daughter, like, she dropped at 35 weeks again, and midwife measures. She's like, "Well, you're small again." And I'm like, I knew it.
oh, this is how my body does it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I knew it. And I'd
Mhm.
asked my first midwife in my first pregnancy, well, could it be that just because he's dropped so low, that's why? And she said, no, that's not possible. And I'm like, no, but it seriously, he dropped so low.
Mhm.
Are you sure? And yeah, it's such a mess for pregnancy.
Mhm.
So what would your suggestions be if you had someone in your group telling you that, I don't want to gain too much, or I think I'm gaining too much and I need to lose weight? What are your suggestions, Tracy?
Well, my first of all, my favorite story in this area is from my one of my dear daughters-in-law, because to me it just so perfectly illustrates this. She has three children. Her first pregnancy, she was like, "Oh, I am just yay! I'm pregnant. I can eat whatever I want, whenever I want." And she just went crazy with how she ate, and she was just like, free pass, which is what a lot of people do because we're so used to having this restrictive mindset around food. And so she had this free pass. So she just ate everything in sight. And she's like, yeah, I was so out of control. And she gained 40 pounds. Then she got pregnant with her second child. And she was like, "Oh, I cannot do that again. I cannot do that again." And so she was very, very careful with how she ate. Really, she was watched everything. She ate really well. And she gained 40 pounds. And then her third child comes along. She's like, okay, I'm getting rid of these extremes. Eat. I'm just going to eat, what I feel like I need to eat. And shocker, she gained 40 pounds. And so it's like, that's how her body did it. That's the amount of weight that her body needed for having babies. The same mom, three different approaches, same result. She had gained 40 pounds and had a healthy baby. Now, not everybody's going to be that cut and dried, but I just love that story because it's just so indicative of the things that we can think that we can manipulate by how we're eating and how we're exercising. If the whole calories in, calories out, oh gosh, if that's in your vocabulary, ditch it now. Ditch it now. If we were strictly machines, that might be valid, but our bodies are living things. You could have the same meal in your exact same amount of food, exact same things that you're eating. And if you eat it when you're having a fight with your partner or a fight with a friend, or when you're just super rushed or you're super tense for some reason, and you're just eating really fast and you're just angry when you're eating, your body, because of the hormonal and psychological things that are going on within it, is going to respond to that differently than if you had that exact same meal and you're chilling out on the back patio and just enjoying a leisurely lunch with people that you love. When you're in that relaxed kind of state, even your own body is going to respond differently to the exact same food. So it is not calories in, calories out. We're so much more complicated than that. So that would be the first thing that I would say. And a lot of this has to do with mindset, and as it does with the whole, opting for a natural birth, and because you have so many people coming at you with so many ideas, and it's for your own good. Oh my goodness, for the health of your baby, you need to be in that hospital. For the health of your baby, you need to be gaining this much weight, and not that much, and not that much, but this much. And it's the mindset thing. You have to get really good at going, okay, that's your opinion. I can understand why you came to that opinion, because that's what culture says, every up, down, and sideways. So I can understand why you think that, but I don't believe that. And you can say that out loud, or you can say it to yourself. It doesn't matter, whatever the situation is, but to get really good at that self-talk, get yourself educated. I know Carly talks a lot about that, and get really good at self-talk, so that when somebody's coming at you, you can either discuss it back with them, or you can just let them have their say and know what you think. And so those recognizing that your body is not a machine, it's going to do what it needs to do. With my first one, I was so sick, and everybody's like, oh, those first 3 months, it lasted 6.5 months. I was throwing up almost everything I ate. The only thing I could keep down sometimes was peanut butter on wheat toast. And it's like, you want to talk about, oh my gosh, this child could be having all kinds of health issues because that is a completely unbalanced diet, and I was getting nowhere near enough food. But he was healthy, just perfectly healthy, never had any issues. And so it's like my body compensated for that. On paper, it looked like it was all bad news, but it wasn't, because it's not about just what's on paper. And so doing the best that we can, really getting ourselves educated on, well, I talk about healthy habits a lot. Healthy habits are so much more important than the number on a scale and the shape or number on your tag of your clothes, the shape of your body, the number of the tag on your clothes. The healthy habits are what matters. So what are those healthy habits? Those healthy habits are sleep, which postpartum, we just do the best we can. But recognizing too that sleep, and I think, and we'll get into more about self-compassion later, but this recognizing that when we're pregnant, often pregnancy can disrupt sleep because of the hormones that are so adjusting all the time, because of we just get bigger and more uncomfortable and we can't sleep well. I remember my first one thinking, oh, I can't wait to just have this baby so I can sleep again. That bubble was burst really quickly. But recognizing that it doesn't matter if you're missing sleep for a good reason, like caring for a child, what missing sleep does to a body and what does to us mentally and emotionally, those are real things. And so giving ourselves that compassion, getting ourselves educated about what does sleep deprivation do to a person? Because when you have a baby, if this is your first one, be prepared for the sleep deprivation. If this is a multiple for you, you know about that. But you're just going to be sleep deprived, and it's for a fantastic reason. So don't feel guilty about the lack of sleep, but just recognize what that does to a person and do the best that you can for that healthy habit at that season of your life. And help whoever's with you, your spouse, your partner, whoever your support person is, help them to understand that too, so that they don't think, oh my gosh, who is this person that I'm with? Like, once I get some sleep again, I'll be okay. So just being really educated about that kind of thing, and knowing what to expect from yourself and from your body. And so that healthy habit of sleep, do the best you can and get educated about, maybe ways that you can promote sleep as much as possible. I know everybody always says, you sleep when the baby sleeps. I can't really preach about that. I was not very good about that because, especially like Carly being a single mom, it's like, you have a billion things to do. I know you weren't a single mom when you had your babies, but
I mean, married single, I might as well have been. I mean, that's
its whole own category. Yep.
Like,
you were a married single mom.
But yeah, I mean, I think like one of the things that I really stress with my clients, because I'm working with both couples, like
Mhm.
I tell dad, she needs sleep. She's in her bed for the first week. After that, she's on the bed. Then she can be around the bed, but you need to be like doing things like helping out. And if you can't do it yourself, hire a postpartum doula. I mean, that is the thing. And
Mhm.
don't have any family members over who are just going to expect to hold the baby the whole damn time, because that can, first of all, screw up with your breast milk and everything. But not only that, you want them to do things. You want them doing the dishes for you so you can get some sleep.
Mhm.
Those are the best friends ever. It's like, hey, go to put the baby to bed and go lay down with the baby and breastfeed and do your rest. And when you wake up, everything will be clean.
And I'll have food for you.
And I'll have food for you. Yeah, no, I just recently had
Yeah.
fantasized about that with my future partner. It's like when I have that baby, it would be really nice if when I wake up while breastfeeding that baby, like he's taken the baby and he's got the baby in his arms and he's like, okay, here, you can eat with both hands.
What,
How
both
nice would
hands?
that be?
Is that
Both
allowed?
hands. Yes, that's allowed. I mean, my clients, they get that because I am just so mindful of it that I train up the partner. Like, he's like super dad, and she
Mhm.
gets to recover. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. And I'm like, yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, no, sleep is a big one.
Hmm.
And it's one that, like, I fight for sleep. So I'm really happy you talked about that.
Yeah, because that it's huge. And like I said, if you're missing sleep for a fantastic reason, like having a baby, that doesn't, your body doesn't go, oh, well, never mind. We're not going to have all the normal things that happen when you miss sleep because it's for a baby. Your body still responds like you're missing sleep. And so just be aware of what that's going to look like and what that can do. And then do the best that you can. Another healthy habit is the obviously eating. And if you're a first timer, you may be super excited to find out, and you may not be super excited to find out that when you're breastfeeding, if you're planning on nursing your baby, you're pregnant, you're gonna have to eat like when you're pregnant. You don't go, okay, now you can just cut everything back because you're still the only source of nutrition for that child. And so when they say, you're eating for two when you're pregnant, you're eating for two when you're nursing as well. So really, I teach intuitive eating, which two of the main principles of it, it's not the only principles, but two of the main principles are to really learn to recognize your hunger cues and recognize your fullness cues. And that sounds so basic. It's like, well, duh. But because of diet culture and being so much dictation of what's an acceptable time to eat, what's an acceptable amount to eat, what are acceptable types of food to eat, and all of those rules that are put around that, our hunger and fullness cues a lot of times just get tossed out the window because it's like, oh, well, I'm still hungry, but I already ate a whole sandwich, not even just a half of one. I had a whole sandwich. And so I shouldn't be hungry. And so we'll stop eating instead of going, okay, am I really hungry? Oh, yes, I am. I need to eat more. Or some going, okay, wait, am I really hungry or do I just want to keep eating? There's a difference. And so slowing down and taking the time to really learn that. If you're pregnant already, then this you can get in tune with your hunger and fullness cues while you're pregnant, but it's not going to be this, you're not going to have the same baseline and practice as you would get if you're watching this pre-pregnancy. But again, just really tuning into your body and listening to what your body needs, because sometimes it's not that much food, and sometimes it's a whole lot more food than we think it should be. But and learning to recognize, and this is where the psychology of the eating comes in. Sometimes, yeah, we're going to be drawn, we're going to think we're hungry because actually what we are is anxious or stressed. And we're going to interpret that as hunger. And when we can learn our body's cues well enough, then we can go, oh, that is not hunger. What that is that's anxiety. That's not hunger. What that is it's anger. I remember when my kids were younger, and had all of them at home and just all the stresses that go with that and all the mom, just feeling like I was pulled 14,000 directions, and it was just like okay, I just need to breathe. When I got that kind of stressed, oh man, I would want Tostitos. Like, just give me the Tostitos. I'm not normally a salty, snacky. I mean, that's not my preferred kind of snack, but oh my gosh. And I realized at one point, it's like, I don't want Tostitos. What I want is to alleviate this stress. So this is not hunger that's driving me to those Tostitos. This is alleviating stress. Do I have a better option than the Tostitos right now? Sometimes that answers yes, I do. Sometimes that answers nope. So I'm eating the Tostitos and just giving yourself that grace for that. Again, that self-compassion. It's it seems like it can seem very self-centered, but also it's not, because when you're taking care of yourself, as I'm sure Carly has probably talked about, when you're taking care of yourself, you're putting yourself in the best position to then take care of this baby, to then be your best self for any other children that you might have, for the father of the children, for any other, for your job or whatever. When you're taking care of yourself well, then you have the best of you to offer. And if we're not doing that, then we start trying to pour things out of a cup that has nothing in it. And that doesn't do anybody any favors. So that, again, that self-compassion, that learning your hunger cues and your fullness cues and honoring those, whether, like I said, sometimes you may be not eating as much as you think you would, and other times you may be eating more than you think you would, but learning to listen to your body for that. So that the health, the movement, this is one thing that during pregnancy, it's important to move in the way that you feel comfortable moving. I have known women who have gone, I don't like to exercise, but I do it all the time anyway. But as soon as they get pregnant, it's like, haha, I don't have to now. And so they stop. I know other women who are like, no, I'm going to be out here running my 5 miles until I'm running to the hospital to have this baby. And wherever you are with that, just taking care of your body, taking care of your physical needs, because obviously the better that you can take care of yourself that way, the easier your body is going to have, as much as is possible during your delivery. But then postpartum, this is where it gets a little tricky, because often still the attitudes are, especially if you watch if you're exposed to any kind of celebrity, anything, it's like, okay, you're done being pregnant, so now get back your body. And I'm going to step on a soapbox about that phrase for just a minute.
Oh, by all means, I love the soapbox.
but like, okay, I need to get back my body. Saying that is implying that you haven't had your body. It's like, what you do, get pregnant and then leave your body and let somebody else inhabit it. It's like, this has been your body all along. It's and through the rest of your life, I'm in my 60s now, and I'm telling you, I haven't been pregnant in 30 years, but your body still continues to change. If this is pregnancy or not pregnancy aren't the only changes that you're going to experience in your body. So learning to recognize that and to allow your body to change. And when after you have a baby, this is another place like, oh, girl, get yourself educated about physically what happens. Because if you thought your hormones during pregnancy were crazy, that doesn't end when you deliver that baby. Your pregnancies your hormones have to re-regulate postpartum. And so you may experience some of the same kind of things. Maybe you won't. Again, everybody's different. But allowing and recognizing, oh, okay, this is a hormonal shift. And we all know hormones can do awesome things. They can really mess with us. So it's just coming back into balance. The way that we need to eat, the way that we need to take care of ourselves, all of that. There's just your body doesn't just go pregnant one day, not pregnant the other day, and all the systems are now go, because your body's still changing equally as much, I would say, postpartum as it did during the pregnancy. And it's still just that, it's not, the pregnancy is not the end. And so often it's treated like that, and it's viewed like that. It's like, okay, your pregnancy's over. So now hop 2, get back. You need to be at the gym 6 days a week now, just like you were before. And And some can soften that. It's like, well, I just had a baby. So, I'm going to give myself at least 2 weeks, give myself at least a month. And it's like, you give yourself however long you need. I've got a young friend, one of my daughter's friends, her son just turned 1. And she just posted a picture of herself, at the gym. And she's like, something about, here's this girl giving herself time to get back to how she used to be. And it's like, while I appreciated the time element of it, if you think you're going to get your body back, I hate to burst your bubble, but you're never going to get your body back because you never lost your body, A, and B, your body, has now experienced a pregnancy. The post-pregnancy body is not the same body as before you had kids or before you had this child. Your body has just experienced this literally miraculous thing. This miraculous thing. You want to go back to the body that hadn't experienced that? Nope. And so this idea of getting back to our body, get my body back. You don't have to get your body back. You never lost it. And this body that you have is post-pregnancy, regardless of the size. With me, with each of my boys, I had to, even though I nursed them all, I had to put some effort into getting my stamina and my strength and my all that where I wanted it to be again. With my daughter, for some reason, it was like I could not possibly even eat enough food to keep any weight on me. It was literally just falling off. And that was the first time that had happened to me. Actually, that was my 6th pregnancy because I had 2 miscarriages as well. It was my 6th pregnancy, and that had never happened to me before. So it's still like, okay, well, this is what my body's doing this time. All right. Maybe the weight will fall off for you. Maybe the inches will fall off. Maybe they won't. But when you're focusing on healthy habits and taking care of yourself, then that's what matters. That's what matters, is being respectful and compassionate of yourself and your body and the journey that it's on. And it's a continuing journey, and well beyond postpartum as well.
Mm-hmm.
2, I focus on coaching Christian women. So I have a very spiritual element to what I do as far as coaching goes. And whether you are a Christian or you are not, I think you can appreciate the fact that there's an element, a spiritual element to you as an individual. And when we can take that into consideration as well and nurture that part of ourselves, to me, that's another one of the really vital, healthy habits, is caring for ourselves spiritually, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe for you, it means praying and reading scriptures and going to church. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it means going and communing in nature. Maybe it means any other number of things, but there's a spiritual element to you that needs just as much care and deserves just as much care as your physical element. And when it comes to diet culture, when it comes to expectations of women and their bodies post-pregnancy, that is pretty much not talked about. Not talked about. Yeah. What are your thoughts about that, Carly? You're nodding, and we haven't had that conversation yet.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I grew up in a family that was very agnostic.
mhm.
We didn't go to church or anything. In fact, I remember when I was 11, my dad went into a new age store just to get some meditative CDs because, of course, that we were in the 90s. And I just saw all these crystals and the candles, and I'm like, I want to be a witch. They absolutely flipped out on me. They didn't want to hear anything about astrology. They said astrology was crazy talk. They said like there was no spirituality. So I was kind of cut off from that. And then what happened, strangely enough, is as I got into the birth space and I went on my empowered birth journey, I found myself tapping back into that spirituality. So I don't practice any one religion.
Mhm.
However, part of the right mindset is really looking at your like future self, higher self, whatever
Mhm.
you want to call it, God, the universe, the one that's basically saying to you, hey, we want to have a home birth. Hey, we maybe don't want to eat all this food that they're telling us that we have to eat to gain an appropriate amount of weight, or we don't need to starve ourselves, or we don't need to obsessively exercise. And instead, like early in my journey, it was what feels right for me. And that in itself was confronting. Adding the entire spirituality side of it and saying my higher self says that I don't need to do this. Some people will look at you like you're crazy. And as you know, I don't care anymore if people look at me like I'm crazy because, you know, you are on your own path. So whether you're at the start of your empowered birth journey or you've been on it for a while and you're like, you know, I am Christian and I do believe that God has everything in my best interest and that this baby will come and I will gain the right amount of weight and my body will shift back to normal. Or you're kind of like at the start of it, it's like, I don't believe this yet, but I want to. Like, I'm just telling you, there is a huge transformation that happens in motherhood because you are literally connected to life. And when you have an empowered birth, you are an empowered mom for life. You go into your postpartum and you start to see everything that's not working. Maybe before you were obsessive with your weight. And now, as like I found out, so one of the stories, Tracy and I actually discussed this before off the record. And she's like, you need to talk about this. So I'm going to talk about this. I am about 110 pounds soaking wet. And all of my life, I was very tiny and I was praised for being tiny. And my grandmother and my aunt and everybody, they were always like, it's so good that you're skinny. My mother, on the other hand, she was obsessed with exercise and diet. And she was really tiny as well. She was like 4 foot, like 11, like she's shorter than me. And she was never fat. Like she didn't even have much on her, but she was constantly, obsessively exercising. After she had my brother, she was just getting her body back. She had the exercise bike. She had all of the DVDs. And I just remember growing up with that and looking at her, it's like, I don't want to do that. I didn't enjoy gym. So I was the kid that would try to get out of gym class. And I'm like, I don't have to exercise because I'm skinny. And everybody around me would be like, oh, she must be anorexic. And I'm like, no, I'll eat a whole cheeseburger. I love food. I'm just skinny. I can't keep the weight on. So when I was thinking about getting pregnant with my first, I was terrified because I'm like, I'm gonna be big. For the first time in my life, I'm gonna be big. And I don't know how I'm gonna be able to handle that. And then, you know, the curious thing happened. I was proud of my baby bump. I loved it. I was able to expand and grow this little baby who was 8 pounds when he was born, but it was like this big belly, and I loved it. And then when I lost the weight right away, because I was breastfeeding, I got so skinny. Like it was insane. I was skinnier than I had ever been, even in high school. And I looked at that and like, this must be what it's like for those girls that are like really, really dangerously thin. And I can't help it right now because I'm breastfeeding. So I actually went into my second pregnancy a little bit underweight. And by the end of it, I had still had about 20 pounds left of postpartum weight loss that I needed to deal with. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to walk with my kids and I'm just going to love my baby and I'm going to breastfeed. And I didn't worry about it. I wasn't worried. From going from, I'm afraid of a little bit of belly pooch as a teenager and in college to, okay, well, this is what my body has right now. And I didn't lose the last of the baby weight until my daughter was almost, I think, 4.5. And I had a little bit of, I would call it depression weight because of what was going on in my marriage. I mean, Tracy talked about eating and anxiety. I was eating and doing the anxiety thing. But I left my partner and I became a single mom. And suddenly that weight just started melting off and I'm happier than ever. And the weight just like, there's nothing to me. But, we all have a little bit of like, we're supposed to have rolls. We're supposed to have a little bit of fat on our body. So I want to also say, if you've got that fat still on your body and you're breastfeeding, you need it. And if you're hungry, I mean, I was starving. I was absolutely starving. So, yeah, I mean, wherever you're at, if you're looking at it's like, what would my higher self say to me? How am
Yes.
I how am I loving myself? And
Yes.
it comes back to if you're spiritual, you understand the universe loves you. And if it's that you're Christian, God loves you. If you are a parent and you see your child and they're saying, I'm too fat, and you're looking and it's like, you don't even have anything on you, or maybe they're just a little chubby. I mean, my son, he's going through puberty and he's eating everything in sight, and he is a little fluffy right now. He's also got a lot of muscle mass. He's walking, he's eating healthy foods. It's like that's just where he's at right now.
Mhm.
Because that kid's probably going to shoot up in height and it's all going to be
Mhm.
gone. It's going to be muscle. So honor your body where it's at. And if
Mhm.
you do need some support, though, I mean, Tracy's amazing at what she teaches.
Oh, I'd be happy to offer that support. And two, recognizing as we're in this space where we're talking to moms, recognize that if you can develop a healthy relationship with your body, with your food now, that will be a gift that you will pass on to your children. You won't be the mom who's dieting all the time and exercising compulsively to try to get back into that size 4 or whatever. You'll be the one who is teaching your child to honor their body. And now, when I talk about honoring our bodies, there's the body positivity movement, which I think is like a step in the right direction, but it's still very body centric because I you talk about the most well-paid supermodels, and they are not in love with their bodies 24/7, 365. That's just not, we're not like that. So what I teach more than body positivity is body neutrality. I go back for myself and hopefully for most people, at least when they're children, when you just really aren't, you're just eating when you're hungry, you're not eating when you're not hungry, you're out playing in the yard, you're doing the things, and you're not thinking about, oh, I can't put on that swimsuit and run the sprinklers in the front yard. What if the neighbors see me and I have this extra little jiggle in my thought? You don't think about that when you're a kid. You put on your little swimsuit, you go run the sprinklers in the front yard. Who cares who drives by and sees you? You're just living in your body. You're not judging your body as you're living in it. And if you're a person who has been impacted that way by diet culture, now, I remember Carly saying before, I haven't really been impacted by diet culture because I've always been thin. It's like, you haven't been impacted in the same way as other people have. But still, too, you talked about when you got really thin, and I'm sure you were probably getting looks on the other end of the scale like, oh gosh, that girl needs to eat. And when women who are in larger bodies, like, that girl needs to stop eating so much. And it's that judgment that comes from the outside and learning to navigate that. But imagine if you can give that gift to your children of not being trapped by that judgment and just honoring their bodies, appreciating their bodies, and letting their bodies do their job while they're doing their best to support their body with eating reasonably. Sometimes the best choice is going to be to eat the cookie. Sometimes the best choice is going to be to not eat the cookie. There's all different situations, but learning to honor themselves and their bodies, what a gift you can give to your children. I have, like I said, one daughter, and she's not a little girl, but she's not a big girl. She's what I would consider average size. Now, out in the world, she's not going to be on the cover of Elle magazine, you know. She's not going to be gracing the cover of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue because she's too big for that. But she is, I just feel like that one of the things I did do right with her is she's never had the inclination to go on a diet to reshape her body. She will go, oh, I haven't been eating well lately. I need to clean up how I'm eating. And she'll approach it that way, which is accurate. She hadn't been honoring her body with the way she was eating, or honoring her body with the way she was moving, or the lack thereof, the movement, the exercise. And so changing the habits, but the changing the habits as a form of honoring her body, not as a form of reshaping her body and fighting her body to get it into the shape that she thinks it should be. So that level of understanding, going kind of circling back to the spiritual side of things, being able to honor who we are. And I love how you put it, your higher self. What would your higher self say? How would your higher self respond? And your higher self is not going to respond with that nagging self-criticism about how you're eating, or how you're not eating, or how you're exercising, or how you're not exercising. That is not a higher self voice. A higher self voice helps you to understand your highest purpose and how that fits into whatever the particular situation is that you're dealing with. So that is such a really beautiful, beautiful part of this. And man, this whole going back to this, appreciating your body, especially postpartum, because while you're pregnant, it's a lot easier to go, this is miraculous. My body is literally forming another human being. Well, then postpartum, that whole human being is already formed and they're out of you. So now it's like, well, what's my body doing now? It's like, it's still just as miraculous in the way that your body will transform post-pregnancy. But we can always go back to if we start feeling like, oh, I can't believe it's taken me this long to get rid of this pregnancy belly. Just stop that and replace it with this miraculous thing that my body just did. It's astounding and breathtaking and beautiful that my body's able to do that. And now I'm just going to honor my body the best that I can and let it recover from that. It's just breathtaking transformation that happens. So that part of that. Let me see here. I've got just a few notes of things that okay. And this another thing, which I think is one of those powerful tools, that's a mind shift tool, is being able to, I always say, either look at it as a detective or look at it as a scientist. Like when you're postpartum and you're feeling like, I can't believe that I still have this much baby weight. Instead of getting judgmental, but instead of like, I can't believe that I'm this far postpartum and I still have this much baby weight. Instead of that, go, I'm this much postpartum and I still have this much baby weight. So what's going on? And being able to observe the whole journey as a scientist would. I'm gathering data, or as a detective, asking the questions that are going to get you the data that you need. One of the things that my midwife, one of the most valuable things that she taught me for going through labor, which said, instead of identifying, they call them labor pains, and she doesn't use that term. She calls them contractions. Said, instead of thinking about the pain, try to see if you can identify, like, what does it feel like? Is it a pulling sensation? Is it a stretching sensation? What kind of sensation is it? So in essence, she didn't use this kind of language that I use, like, be a scientist there. It's like, oh, let me observe what's happening rather than just think I'm in pain, because we are wired to get ourselves out of pain. And so if we're focused on pain, then we're going to want to get out of that however we have to. And when we can't, because this is the process that we're in, then it just becomes so much harder, and we tense up, we contract into that literally. And if we can kind of take a breath or several breaths, whatever type of breathing that you opt for when you're in labor, and become an observer of what your body's doing. Because she taught me how to do that, I tell you, and people thought I was crazy. It's like the pregnancy part, I got very sick. And so it's like, I'm fine never being able to be pregnant again. The having a newborn and raising a child, I'm done with that part of my life. But if I could just do the labor and delivery, I would volunteer. If somebody could be pregnant, I could do the labor and delivery and then let somebody else have the child, I'd sign up because of being able to observe. And it's like, I have never in my life felt more powerful and more awestruck and just completely floored by what my body could do than I have when I was in labor with my children. It's just such an amazing thing. And being able to step back and observe instead of postpartum, instead of judge how your body looks and judge how it's behaving, just observe and learn. Then that place enables that self-compassion. It enables us to do things that are going to make a really amazing difference in the long run, and not just fight our bodies to get it back into the size 8 or size 3 or whatever size we want it to be in, to fight our bodies to get back into that. And then that puts us in this adversarial role with our body instead of this appreciating and the unity of body and spirit that can happen when we can observe it like that and to take that approach. What are you thinking,
Oh,
Carly? I can see the wheels going.
I am just blown away. And now, of course, the wheels are turning in my head. I mean, they were turning at the beginning, but like, we're going to have to do another one of these just to go into your story of your births, because you just like, you nailed it. You were able to go in and be like, I'm going to get curious about these contractions. I'm going to get curious about what's going on. And that's exactly what I kind of did with Michaela, because I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm a birth nerd, and I have sent the midwife and the doula home, and I'm just going to observe these contractions. And then I'm also going to test. I wonder what happens if I actually tense up. Oh, yeah, that is awful. Oh, well, what if I do this? Like, I got all curious. I probably experimented even more because I was thinking I'm going to be teaching this to other people. But for you to reflect that experience, and then also you've obviously tied this into what you're doing now with your clients too, because it's a process. It's not starve yourself like a lot of diet culture teaches, and it's not overly exercise, and it's not restrict yourself to only these foods. Like, you let your clients have a cookie if they really, really want it. But if they're also thinking that it's like, I'm in anxiety, you've got that intuitive knowing. And I mean, as moms, we're sitting there in pregnancy and we're like, I shouldn't have this thing because everybody tells me that I need to eat healthy. But, you know, I really, really, really want a slice of cheesecake. Like, I am just craving it. And this alternative that people keep suggesting does not seem to satisfy my desire for this cheesecake. But if I eat the cheesecake, I'm going to gain calories, and then that's not good either. And like, you're trying to go back and forth. And I mean, I didn't do the calories thing. As far as I was concerned, calories don't exist, and they don't exist on your birthday. but like, there are other things. And I mean, my ex would be like, you're going to eat that, you're going to get fat. And I'm like, we don't do that crap. And my daughter was recently like, I don't want to eat that because I'll get fat. I'm like, girl, you are skinny, and there is no way I'm going to allow you to think that way. And you know, there's a lot of beautiful bodies that are in different shapes. Like, we are not going to absorb that. So it might not even be you. It might be your partner or your partner's family or your family who says these things. And even if you are sitting there and you're like, you know, I'm just I'm not listening to it, it's still reinforced in the culture. And like, Tracy kind of pointed that out to me, because I'm like, well, you know, I never really had to worry about that. And she's like, yeah, but you kind of did, because there were still things. And I remember that's like, I would deliberately eat more in front of people because they were like, I bet she doesn't eat. And then I would eat too much, or people would pile more food onto my plate than what I could eat. And to be polite, I would finish it. But really, it's like, this is too much food for me. And recently I was with some friends and I'm like, I know I said I was going to get the pasta, but honestly, I'm just craving a salad. And I just make it okay to eat that salad because, you know, skinny girl eats a salad there's a
Oh,
story around that.
she must be restricting herself. She must be have something going on that shouldn't be going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and mine was I have been eating a lot of meat and I've been eating a lot of pasta at home. And, today I kind of feel like having a garden salad that I don't have to make myself. And it was really good. It had like oranges and it had like the bean sprouts, and it was really well put together salad.
Hmm.
And I'm ordering it and I'm ordering the small at the same time. And they're like, "Oh, you don't want the large." And I'm like, "No, that's way too much food for me." So letting that be okay. And then with postpartum too, I was starving. I could not stop eating. I know when I'm pregnant because like it's just I'm ravenous and I cannot stay full. I will
Hmm.
continue to eat. So my first this was kind of weird is I would be super hungry with my second pregnancy, but I also felt super nauseous. So
Hmm.
kind of I dealt with that whole up until 6 months nausea thing. It's not fun. Like solidarity, sister. But like it was just so different from my son where I couldn't stop eating. And with my daughter, it's like I want to eat, but I also feel nauseous, so I'm not going to eat yet. But then the nausea would subside, and then I would eat again, and then I would feel sick again. And like it changes.
Hmm.
And this is through your entire life as mom.
Hmm.
So if you can get over the idea of how many calories you need to eat and what you need to be doing and what kinds of foods, your kids will have a better relationship with food.
Hmm.
They absolutely will. There are some days where my son, he will sit there and yes, he's fluffy right now. And I honor that. I'm not going to shame him for being that way, unlike other people in like they see it and they're like, "Oh, well, he needs exercise." And like that kid goes up and down a hill and he'll get on his bike and he'll exercise. Oh, maybe he's eating too much. It's like that kid is mostly eating fruits and vegetables. Like it's like what you were telling earlier about the story. It's like I'm going to restrict my diet and I gain 40 pounds. I'm going to eat whatever I want. I gain 40 pounds. I'm going to balance it. I gain 40 pounds. That's just his body type.
Hmm.
My daughter is skinny as a rail. Doesn't matter how much she eats, but some days she won't eat much of anything. My son sometimes won't eat much of anything. Completely different body types.
Hmm.
So it's a process. It really is. And the intuitive way of being like, well, what do I really want? Getting out of your anxiety, which is also part
Hmm.
of the empowered birth method,
Hmm.
is you get out of your fear, you get those voices out of your head from other people in the culture telling you
Hmm.
you should do something.
Hmm.
And you're like, what do I want? What feels good for me? What's my truth? Well, this is the same for postpartum, for weight loss, and for pregnancy weight gain. What feels good to you? Do you feel you're starving yourself right now? Are you really, really hungry? And people are telling you you can't eat anymore because you've already had too many calories. No, go make yourself a damn sandwich. If you're really, really hungry, go make yourself a damn sandwich and you eat that, and people can say whatever the heck they want. That's on them.
Hmm.
That's not
They're
on
not
you.
living in your body. You are.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, Tracy, this has been amazing. And we went like a whole hour because, we tend to do that. I am going
Yes.
to have to bring you in for your birth story because this was just absolutely fascinating, the little teaser. So,
Okay.
something to look forward
I
to.
yeah,
Now,
do want to wrap up with
yeah.
something to remember, like 4 hot tips here. And you can think about it as echo. We want to echo this in our lives. First is to embrace intuitive eating, the way that we're eating, and just be intuitive about that. The C is that compassion, that self-compassion, and giving yourself all the grace you need and all the room that you need for all the things you need. The H is the healthy habits, that you take care of yourself, and the eating, the moving, the sleeping. And one thing that we didn't touch on was also part of that healthy habits is being connected to other people and finding that connection, whether it be in moms groups or hopefully within your own home and within your own family, but having that connection, especially as a mom of a newborn, that is like doubly important as it is in other times of life, because we need support, so much support, and we need that connection to sometimes just to know we're not going crazy. Oh, it's not just me, it's this time of life. Okay, I can do this. So that connection, that part of the healthy habits. And then the O is to be observant, just to observe without judgment. So echo.
I love that. Echo. Wow. Okay. So speaking of community, though, you have a community and you do support moms. So let's talk more about your work. So, I mean, let's talk about Nourishing Body and Soul.
Well, what I do with Nourishing Body and Soul, first of all, the whole, as you can probably tell from the name, it's about building a life that nourishes us and doesn't deplete us. Because especially as women and especially as moms, we're giving in so many ways that it's easy to not have a balance that keeps us nourished, and we just get depleted to where we have nothing left. And that's not what we're intended to do. And I'm telling you right now, we can give all the good service to all the people, we can give all the love to all the people, and still maintain that balance, still have a life that nourishes us. Part of that's learning how to say no. But building a life that truly nourishes us, not just our body, but our soul as well. So that's the name of the company. I do coaching, I do challenges from time to time. I'm working on a book right now. I have a podcast and a blog, and there's all the things. But I empower women to really see their divine self and to create a life that supports that and therefore shares that. To be able to really live a life that at the end of the day, we can go, that was a good day. That was a good life. That's the life that I wanted, to intentionally create our lives. And a huge part of that is this is why one of the things I love about Carly's message and this word, empowered moms, because as women, we have such an important gift to give to the world. And at this point in time, we are able to give that in so many ways that we didn't used to be able to. A lot of the expectations, from the way back in the dark ages, all the way up as early, currently is the 50s and 60s and 70s, women's roles have changed a lot. And we're at a really dynamic time in history where women are being allowed to and empowered to really just be their best selves and to offer their best gift. What a world that is.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I picked a really great time to come into the world. It's like I was born in the mid 80s, and then I got through the 90s where it was just the start of girl power, getting into the 2000s, taking control of my birth experience, which was unheard of in my family. Doing my own mom thing was really powerful. I mean, there was one point, I think I was being a little cheeky and sarcastic. But
what?
I know, right? A Scorpio being cheeky and sarcastic when she's had enough, right? But I was like, I am not going to apologize for my choices anymore. And I mean, that is the embodiment of empowered moms. I mean, yes, we do birth. Empowering moms birth is a thing. But the overall message is like the 5-pillar system is all about you becoming your best mom self. And that doesn't mean subscribing to whatever anybody else says is a super mom or mommy martyr culture. We don't do that. And like Tracy's message with Nourishing Body and Soul is the same thing. It's like, what feels right for you? What is it about like your body that you want to honor? And if you want to have the damn cookie, have the damn cookie, but be aware of why you're having the damn cookie. I mean, I have a little bit of a Girl Scout cookie addiction.
Who doesn't?
Recently I discovered that one of my mom friends who's her daughter goes to school with my son in middle school, and she's like, "Oh, we do girl guides." And I'm like, "Oh dear." Because that means I now have a new dealer.
This is really fantastic, terrible news.
Yeah, my old dealer kind of aged out, and I was like, okay, well, I don't have a dealer anymore. But when it's $6 a box and you can get your own box, it can be, but at the same time, it's like once a year that those specific cookies come out. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to indulge. I'm going to have fun and I'm going to balance it out with a salad. And you can do that in pregnancy too. Do not cut yourself off from the joys. You've got 9 months that you're going to be growing a baby. There's some things you obviously don't want, like alcohol and cigarettes. I mean, you don't want that stuff. Honestly, you don't want that stuff even when you're
Ever.
not pregnant. But that's a whole other topic. But what I think it's like, you know what? It'll be really nice when my partner brings me cheesecake with the strawberries and the whipped cream on top. And maybe I'll be in the mood for it that night, or maybe I might even just eat a little bit. I'll be like, cut just a tiny slice because this baby is like pushing on my stomach right now. So I'm not really feeling like eating a lot of food. Because that's the other thing with intuitive eating. How hungry are you? And are you going to stop before you get to that point where you're like, I wish I hadn't eaten all that and I have really bad heartburn now and I feel like I'm going to throw up. And that's the same in postpartum. There's going to be times like you've got hormones shifting. Think of it like your period. There's certain times of the month where it's like you just don't want certain foods. And we need to be okay with that. So, I mean, Tracy, thank you so much. Nourishing Body and Soul is just amazing. I've been following her on Instagram, not just as her friend, but also just to kind of see where she's at and like to just support each other. That's why she's in my Empowered Mom circle. And if you do end up forgetting, it's like, who was that awesome lady who was speaking on weight loss and postpartum and pregnancy? You can always reach out, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. If you forget Tracy's name, if you watched this video a long time ago, that's how you get into connection with me. I'll be like, oh yeah, that's Tracy. Go check her out. But Tracy, for anybody who's watching, can you let them know where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at I just changed my handle. I believe it's Tracy, it's either Tracy Astle or Tracy.Astle, Nourishing Body and Soul. On Facebook, I have Nourishing Body and Soul page. LinkedIn, it's Tracy Astle. And on YouTube, it's the Nourishing Body and Soul channel.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go and subscribe to that channel so that if anybody wants to see who else I'm checking out and subscribing to, you'll be able to do that. I will put some information into the description of this video as well for you. And if you ever have any problems, though, you can always reach out to me. hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. I'm here to connect. I have a whole wide network, and Tracy's got a wide network. We've been in a mastermind together. Tracy knows people. I have another special guest that will be coming on in a few weeks as well. She's in our little mastermind, and she's just as vibrant and just as amazing. I won't give away any names, but she helps with gut health, and it kind of builds into the whole eating foods that love you back. So this is going to be just powerful. And again, if you have any questions, you can put them inside the chat, or you can reach out to us at hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com and follow Tracy because she's got a YouTube channel. You can find anything that you need. And yeah, and we will be bringing you back on for this amazing birth story because just seeing the passion and how you lit up telling it. Like, this is the thing is when you have an empowered birth, like Tracy said, she's in her 60s. You never forget. And you want to never forget a good, happy, empowered birth. You don't want to never forget trauma. Like, it sticks with you. Yeah. So it's time we talk about this. It's time we really stand up as moms and be like, you know what? I am in my full power and I'm going to do things my way. And if society doesn't like it, it doesn't matter. You're the mom at the end of the day. You're the mom who is doing this for you and for your kids. You're breaking a cycle. I mean, Tracy broke the cycle with her daughter. Her daughter is confident and she's like, you know what? I'm just going to do my thing. So don't we want that for our daughters? Don't we want our sons to grow up to see women of all sizes and be like, you know what? We're not going to shame women anymore. We're not going to try to fit them into a box. We're going to actually revere our mothers and our sisters and our wives and our daughters and stop shaming because I'm done with that.
Yep. Yep. Well, thanks, Carly. This has been really fun. Really fun.
Oh, absolutely. This is the best. So we will definitely be bringing Tracy back. Thank you so much. This has been the Empowered Mom Hour. I know we kind of went over, but we do that when we get into our little talks. If you loved this video, please like, share, subscribe to the channel, tell others. Remember, the Empowered Mom method is all about aiming for a true natural birth and pulling back only as needed, and also to aim for what you want most and only bringing in the experts and education that you need that's going to lead you to that, not away from it. And yeah, I just wanted to let you know again that if you want to get on our newsletter, you go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/toolkit. You'll be able to hear more about upcoming interviews. You'll be able to also get some sneak peeks of behind the scenes things that come out, little stories that I have added to the Empowered Birth newsletter. And really, this is how you can avoid the overwhelm of information that comes in. So I love you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. Please pay it forward. Happy empowered birth journey, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.